Is the Vancouver market about to take a pause with the latest interest rate hike that's going to happen on June 7th? Well, that's what we talk about and much more with our good friend Roland Kim right after this. Yes, my friends, as promised, all the way from Vancouver, or if you're in Vancouver, there you go. I'm all the way in Ontario, but you care about the Vancouver market. We're always here with our good friend Roland Kim. My friend, how are you?
I'm doing great. And yourself?
I'm doing excellent, excellent. We are in the midst of our spring slash summer weather, so things are good. Kids are happy. They're in the pool, everything like that, counting down the days for summer vacation, which brings us to our spring market. It's been, pretty hot in both Toronto and definitely there in Vancouver. How's it going? Give us kind of that 30,000 foot view, and then we'll jump into the weeds a little bit of the Vancouver market.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's a pretty steady, you know, optimistic market with understanding that I do believe there'll be another interest rate hike or two. And so I think people, as much as they don't like that, they also understand it. There doesn't seem to be indications it's going to go on a run here with lots of interest rate hikes. And so they still need to buy or sell. And I'm finding a lot of clients are, transacting real estate because they want the type of property that they're either selling or buying. And so it's kind of like slowed down a little bit. It's moderated a little bit from the beginning of the month. I know when we were talking by mid-month, I think we had gone up to about 128 transactions on average a day. And we're going to finish the month lower, about 111 on average. But that's just over 3,400 transactions in our real estate board, which makes it the second busiest May in the last 6 years. So it is busy. There's a lot, I think, of past stale listings that have sold this month, and buyers, getting a bit more creative. But I don't see right now the pressure that was building a little bit before the inflation came out mid-month that will push, prices to go anywhere crazy. So hopefully that's a balanced seller's market, so to speak.
And you raised an important point there too, with kind of sometimes we get those stale listings, or there's always that one or two listings when you're looking on your phone or everything. You're like, oh yeah, it's that one. Oh yeah, it's that one. And then when they go, I don't know about you, Roland, but sometimes it's the buyer's mindset. Oh, okay, hang on. There's new inventory. There's almost like a little. I don't. I hesitate to use the word excitement, but maybe interest, refreshed interest. How's that sound when you see listings that have been sitting on the market sell, right?
Definitely. Yeah, no, it's interesting how quickly now we, put value on brand new listings that haven't been on the market before, and almost dismiss something if it's been around for a few weeks, thinking that it's not as good as it could be, and there could be a real backstory to it that explains why it's still on the market, that you might be missing.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're a buyer and you're looking at that, I'll tell you, and I know Roland has definitely experienced this. Sometimes those are the best buys, those that have been sitting there for a few weeks. Not to say that there's going to be incredible discounts, but perhaps you get some terms in your favor that help with that purchase, whether it's conditions and financing and everything else, home inspections, who knows? But having a look at some of those properties that have been on the market longer than others is always important. Okay, so you and I were both just kind of looking at the stats there in the Vancouver area, and you had mentioned it as well. This might be one of the busiest Mays you've seen over the last 6 years. Apart from perhaps what gets announced next week with the next Bank of Canada interest rate announcement, and we're leaning towards, most say we're leaning towards a hike there. What's your thoughts on that?
I say it's still 50-50. I think they could probably delay it one more time if they wanted to, because it was such a modest increase. It was more of a inflation stall. However, if I was them, I would raise it simply
Mhm.
for to kind of put a cup of water on the fire instead of a bucket down the road. And I think, like I tell, in my monthly updates to my real estate office and realtors, the first kind of 4% we came down in inflation, was much easier than the next 2% to get it close to 2%, right? So it's going to get much harder to get that inflation down, because where's it coming from? It's coming down from fuel, it's coming from housing, it's coming from entertainment and spending, and those, those haven't changed. It's not like we're going, certainly in Vancouver, I think we're back to almost $2 a liter for gasoline, right? And that's not bringing down inflation. As we go into the summer months, people are still spending. So I think the smart thing probably by the government is to do an interest rate hike here on the 7th, and try and like cool things down a little bit, or at least not let them get too hot. So that's kind of one of the trends I do think will be showing itself. An interesting trend that I'm seeing a bit more over the last few years, but really now, is like how the buyers are so eager to buy turnkey, updated, even if it's not nice updated, so to speak. And what I mean by that is, it used to be people were always, my clients were looking for bones, and they kind of had, the pocket money or saved up money for the renovation so they could do it the way they wanted to. And more I'm finding the homes that, in my opinion, are, better priced, have better opportunity. You just have to do the work yourself. They're selling less, evenly, less effectively than the turnkey houses that are ready to go. And just recently this weekend in Deep Cove, I saw a house near my home where it was a perfect example of a veneer renovation. Everything was touched and updated, but they didn't change the floor plan. There's poor transitions in the flooring to the bedroom. The stairs were, they were new hard surface, but they were poorly installed compared to what it could have been. And so it's and yet, that one had multiple offers, when a neighboring home for a little bit less that needs the attention didn't get the same. So it is interesting. I think the consumer is willing to spend a lot more, perhaps doesn't have that much experience, and might be missing out again on an opportunity.
Yeah, that's it. It really is interesting. That cycle of the buyer does tend to change. There, of course, there's buyers for everything and every style of home, or state of home, we should say. And I liked your point with the inflation. Circling back to that, in your analogy, in a sense, it's like losing weight. The first 5 pounds or 10 pounds, whatever it is in your world, is easier to lose than that last 5 pounds, and that's the last. That's what we're looking at right now with Canadian, or inflation in Canada. That's the toughest, and they're going to have to really, really kind of tighten the screws on that. Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah, and it's going to be a doozy, I think, if they're really committed to that two inflation range. I don't quite know how they're going to get there, because I think everything has just escalated over the last 3 years. Then it's not coming back down, and part of it is because people are getting away with it. Like, I am talking with certain service providers or companies, and they're charging a lot more just because everyone else is, but proportionately their costs haven't gone up as much. But it seems to be, socially acceptable to tell everyone, well, we raised our prices because of inflation.
Yeah,
So that,
that has, we've all heard that from every one of our service providers, right? And maybe you've used it yourself as a service provider of some sort of service. That is something that, you're right. It's almost socially acceptable to allow that to happen. And if you're the consumer, I don't know, push back maybe, and ask the right questions or ask different questions. So okay, over the next coming weeks, obviously, June 7th, I wrote it down here. That's our next Bank of Canada announcement, and it could go either way. Obviously, that's kind of the walking the line, but chances are it might increase because of our inflation. What do you think that's going to do to the buyer and the seller? Are we still kind of sitting in that seller's market there in Vancouver?
yeah, I think we'll still on paper be in a seller's market for sure. Just simple demand cycle and lack of inventory. I think sadly it'll push a lot of first time buyers out of the market, and the stretch clients that need a bit more space, and it would be great for their retirement to level up in home, but they might just feel it's too risky, not knowing where the interest rates stop. So, in many ways, in these markets, sadly, I find the affluent and the successful continue doing their repositioning and leveraging more, money. And the folks that are just trying to grind forward, that need a little bit of help, it affects them the most, sadly.
Yeah, yeah, it's very true. The saying could be said here in the Toronto area. Absolutely. Uh, for those of us that aren't in that Vancouver market every day like you are, or maybe you're a viewer here and you just stumbled upon today's video, and thank you for watching. Kind of, I'm going to put you on the spot, but give us that overview of Vancouver's a big area, but kind of what that average price is for a detached home down to a condo or an apartment. Kind of give us that overview just to enlighten us a little bit on that perspective.
Yeah, so the average price for a house in the general Vancouver area is probably about 1.8 million. A two-bedroom condo is about $1 million. We're a city and an environment that has been created because we had a hugely successful Expo 86, and we never planned or built for it afterwards. So we invited the world, and it worked. And ever since then, we've been underbuilding, and the demand has kept growing to a point where we always seem to be in a seller's market, right? It always seems to be harder to find the inventory, and so as a result, we continue to grow. There certainly seems to be a lot of demand here. We have a sister city, Surrey, that's going to be bigger than Vancouver soon,
Mm.
and so the dynamics of migration within our little municipalities is quite interesting as well. But I certainly think we're going to be one big city from Vancouver to Coquitlam in the years ahead, and then Surrey and Langley will be its own larger city. So it'll be a tale of two cities beside each other.
Yeah, yeah. And talk to us a little bit about what's driving that market. Obviously, it's the most beautiful city in Canada, and talk to us like is what the job opportunities and things like that. Of course, you have immigration; that's a big factor. Uh, share some thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's definitely a lifestyle and lots of pressures. So I mean, from a lifestyle perspective, you're 2 hours from Whistler. In the province of BC, you literally can get any kind of environment experience. We have deserts, we have rainforest, and everything in between. It's not unusual for someone in Vancouver to go skiing and mountain biking on the same day, or go skiing and boating on the same day, and that's pretty special. Um, Job opportunities, definitely. Equally though, I'd say people in Vancouver make a lot of compromises. They probably have a low salary compared to the cost of living versus Alberta or versus parts of Ontario. And sometimes when folks move here, they can't quite figure out how the locals put so much of their income into the housing equation. And it sadly is an extremely expensive city and province to be in. But it's the migration, I think, is an immigration. Like, it's not even so much a lot of immigration from out of country. Obviously, we have a lot of that, but we have a lot of migration from other parts of Canada moving to Vancouver. And then we certainly are on a line straight up from the U.S. with the technology,
Right.
the West Coast. So I know a lot of folks go through Vancouver and the technology industry there before they're brought on board into the U.S. system. So just a great location for accessing Canada and the lifestyle and weather and type of people. But we suck at building. We have sucked at building for like 25 years. So now we've created our own little problem.
Yeah, yeah. And in that same regard, Toronto is almost identical. And although we do have opportunity to do it, it just takes forever. And maybe it's same there. Uh, to get site plan approval ready for a new condo tower or new development, and in very rare cases, purpose built rentals, it takes 36 to 48 months to get that approved, and that's not fast enough in today's world, as it were. I'm sure it's the same there in a sense. Yeah.
Totally, and it's also like it's moved from from like being accessible by the average hardworking middle person to like top tier business. And what I mean by that is when I started in real estate 15 years ago, as little as even 8 years ago, there was lots of successful realtors and other business folks that would finance buy a lot build a duplex and hire the builder to do it and sell it and add more inventory to the marketplace and make a little bit of income for doing that as well. And now, the numbers just don't make sense anymore to do that. And so it's another step that I think is pushing the real estate development more into conglomerates and industry. And so, I think that has slowed down in many ways the building as well. And it also keeps the costs high and kind of, further takes away that opportunity from a real estate investor in our market.
Yeah, and we had something really interesting happen in our Toronto Council meeting a few weeks ago, and that is they more or less unanimously agreed to allow every property in Toronto to have a second suite. Now, of course, there's a lot of things that you still have to kind of jump over and do. Uh, is there something similar, or do you see something similar like that in Vancouver to help with the housing crisis?
Yeah, I think they're probably going to come in with the rules where probably every lot could be, could be stratified into 4 units,
Sure.
maybe even six. And so that's awesome. But like our biggest challenge is, again, we have such high limitations on the buildable space and setbacks. Like, I don't know why, but we have silly setbacks on every lot where I think you guys build to the lot lines a lot more.
Mm.
So, like on an average Vancouver detached lot, or and if you can build six stratified properties, they're all going to be small 2 bedrooms unless we change, how high we can go and how deep we can go. And a lot of that would be the wrong type of inventory, because really what we need is, solid 2 bedrooms and really 3 bedroom, 3 bedroom homes over 1,400 square feet for sure. That's the future family home that would actually make a difference in, the housing challenge.
Yeah, and you said it right at the end. Um, Most families, not all, but most can live within a three-bedroom home, right? And
Yes.
and like you said, that is such a that's missing that missing middle that is missing in our marketplace, and even here, it's definitely missing. My friend, it's always insightful, and I love that we're just keeping our. It's always good to have your ear to the ground of what's going on in the Vancouver market, and I always say this, even if you're not thinking of selling, somebody that is, and you need to be in tuned with what's going on around you. How do people get a hold of you?
Definitely. So I got a new brand that's called the Canada Wide Real Estate Guy. So you can find that online, just the Canada Wide Real Estate Guy.com. We obviously got you covered for all real estate between Chilliwack and Squamish, but then anywhere in Canada where you're not helping them and they don't know a realtor, you can reach out through me and I can connect you with a great realtor or two that can help you. So find that or online with my name.
There you have it, my friends. I love it. Love the branding. Okay, there you have it. That's Roland Kim. I'm Gary McGowan. We'll see everybody in the next video. Goodbye for now.